Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is John Gandy, and today we'll be discussing NIST 853 and the IEC 62443 standards. We will be doing a brief overview of each one and then a side-by-side comparison to discuss which one is best suited for you and your organization. Just a little bit about me. My name is John Gandy. I have been with Exida now for just over 2 years, primarily working in end-user cybersecurity, doing things such as cybersecurity vulnerability analysis, some risk assessments, facilitation and scribing, along with gap assessments, hazard reports, and some procedural development as well. I will also be joined today by Tom Mitchell, who has been working on this webinar with me, and will be introducing him shortly.
Hi everybody, my name is Tom Mitchell. Just like John, I've been working at Exida for almost 2 years now. I've been working in the cybersecurity certification team for that amount. I've also been diving into some of the functional safety certification as of recently. So I have a broad array of skills in both 62443, NIST 853, and as well as on the functional safety side of things, IEC 61508 and ISO 26262. Today I'll be diving into the NIST 853 background, scope, and its applicability. But before we get into that, I'm sure some of you have seen countless webinars that we produce here at Exida, but for those that haven't, a little bit about Exida is that we provide a lot of services to our customers to help them create a secure or safe cybersecurity or functional safety development lifecycle. We have tools and checklists and different templates that you could buy from us. We also help with this whole certification process for those that want to be certified. Later in the webinar, towards the end, we'll get into some of the other courses and services that we provide. But without that, let's get further ado on some of the topics we'll be discussing today. So we'll be starting off with looking at NIST 853, and then I'll be passing the torch back to John when he talks about IEC 62443. So a little bit about NIST, okay? It stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's originally made for the federal government, so you see it in some of the three-letter agencies, but it's started to become more of a well-known and well-adopted security standard as it's practical for its use cases in a large array of systems and components. One of the great things about NIST is that it has a wide range of security controls, and inside each security control is an additional layer of security enhancements. And because of this, this allows individual companies to tailor out what they need exactly for their company. This could help with flexibility, it can help with cost, and it can help with the ease of incorporating different security measures and postures into your organizations without feeling overwhelmed that other security standards might impose. Overall, like other security standards, the goal of this is to increase your security posture, protect against both internal and external threats, and just overall provide trustworthiness and security in a manner that people know and can trust. To go back to what I was saying before, both internal and external threats, I have some interesting statistics here that I think you might be interested in. One of the things that NIST provides is great access control requirements, okay? And one of the big things that we have found over the course of these past few years since COVID is, one, we have the rapid growth of ransomware. And these are more of your external threats that we see big on the news, big pipeline attacks, big attacks against different SIEMs and network infrastructure. But we also have to think about the physical access, the people that work at your company. How are they accessing your systems? Do they have limited access controls to both the physical components as well as the components through software? And so what this means is we see a lot of people disregarding the fact that human error, both maliciously and non-maliciously, accounts for almost a quarter, in some cases more, of the threat landscape when we are looking at our security posture. On top of that, you have your general bugs and issues that come with every patch. I know we've been seeing this all the time, okay? issues that tend to happen is when you're working with legacy systems and you tend not to update your operating systems and your software, and then you end up having to, either through compliance or other means, and then you're stuck with a bunch of different bugs, which just increases the threat landscape, the amount of ways that attackers can enter your system and pivot around your information. And NIST helps you build up what I like to call a security wall, okay? Both a security wall that is high in its height, but also layered as we follow defense in depth in all of our security standards. Some other interesting facts that I've come across during my research is that we've seen, especially since 2020 and COVID, about a 500% increase in ransomware reports. And I like to think of ransomware almost as like the newest fad. And because of this, people tend to negate the other fads that have once plagued, the security landscape. For example, just generic phishing emails. Well, you don't want to just disregard that. You don't want to continue to update your firewalls and your different protection mechanisms through your email. But you also want to make sure that your employees are aware of these changes, not just the current and most threatening landscape like ransomware. Because what we see nowadays is things like phishing becoming much more complex and advanced, that some people are able to create carbon copy requests of LinkedIn requests for friends, Facebook requests for friends that looks like it's coming exactly from Facebook or LinkedIn, but in fact is a malicious link that you end up clicking on through some pop-up browser or what have you. Additionally, just to go back to the statistics on human error, is 27% of data breaches are caused from human error, and that doesn't include different things that just occur naturally from loss of PII, maybe potentially just loss of data in general, but this is data breaches and actually breach of confidentiality to those that aren't authorized to see that information. Okay. One of the other big objectives of NIST 853 is the risk management approach. And the goal is to really take your entire risk posture and look at it holistically, okay? So what this means is you look at both the people and the process and throughout the entire development life cycle to get a better understanding of your risk in your company and how you can maintain and patch those issues, patch those vulnerabilities, and again, harden that security wall to prevent both current and future access to your software and systems. One of the great things about NIST, of course, is that, and I mentioned this before, I'm sure I'll mention it again, is that it can be tailored to your exact needs. Some security standards require you to do specific things, okay? And NIST is like that as well, except for the fact that you get to pick and choose the exact enhancements that you want to apply to your organization. And what that means is your unique risk landscape to your company can be tailored exactly to how you want it and how your company will best deem necessary to fulfill those requirements, rather than just some other organization deeming what's most important to you. Because we know that not every company is going to act the same as one another. This could be for various reasons: the people and the expertise that are in the company, the financials of the company. Do you have the most current and high-tech firmware and security mechanisms that are currently released? Are you looking into AI-based firewalls and intrusion detection systems? Well, maybe not, because that's not feasible for everybody. But what NIST does allow you to do is to look at how you're doing it currently in your company and harden those mechanisms and improve upon them through continuous improvement. Finally, I wanted to talk about compliance. And compliance is big because when we look at NIST 853 from an exida point of view, we don't certify to them. We can provide an attestation to show that you follow NIST 853, but in a different way that we can provide a full certification for IEC 62443, for example. Mandating NIST compliance is only a federal mandate. Okay, so what this means is For companies who are in the public sector that are looking to harden their security posture, NIST 853 will still provide you with the necessities to do this, but it might not be as marketable as something like 62443 where you get a full certification. But that shouldn't sway you from providing or from taking the time to look at NIST 853 and decide if that's right for you. Because NIST 853 has become so popular over the past decade, people have understood exactly what that means when you say we're compliant or we've been following NIST 853. What it means to the people is that you're becoming trustworthy. And trustworthy is a big marketable aspect, not only internally to your employees who you want to gain trust and build relationships internally, but those people and customers that you're trying to sell to. They want to know that they can trust you, they can trust that what you're storing data-wise is secure, that patch management and future updates are going to come in a manner that can help their business as well as yours. So to go along with this is data security. One of the things I'll talk about later is how some of these larger companies, Facebook, TikTok, have come under fire about data security. But before I talk about that, I did just want to reiterate on the fact that NIST 853 has a wide breadth of security controls. And if I step aside here, you can take a better look at kind of the objectives of NIST. So they want to set you up for success. You can customize it, identify the gaps and harden those gaps by creating actions. And once you create those actions, you can follow through on them. So what this allows you to do is create a holistic defense mechanism. This goes back to the idea of like an onion, a layered onion in your security wall. And just to list off some of the different control groups that are in NIST, I'm sure you've heard of these and many other security standards. They're kind of industry-wide, but they're critical to establishing a strong security baseline. So we have access controls, audit and accountabilities. Incident response is another big one. We saw a lot during COVID that companies that did not have proper incident response started to go under and fail as a business, and those that did have incident response plans in action, business continuity plans and things of that nature, thrived and succeeded through COVID and are better off than where they were prior to. And again, things like risk assessment, risk management, and just integrity of information. So NIST 853, if you follow it and choose which ones exactly you want for your company to structure a strong security baseline for your product and your employees and your company, can help significantly diminish vulnerabilities. And we know as cybersecurity professionals that you can't ever negate 100% of vulnerabilities. But what NIST helps you do is map out through risk assessment exactly what are the big points of your product, of your business, of your company that you need to harden specifically. And that's going to allow you to take a risk-based approach that will help you mitigate current and future vulnerabilities that can cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. For example, IBM states that in 2024, the average cost of a data breach was nearing $5 million. $5 million. And I don't know about you, but a $5 million hit would sure be a pain in my pockets. Okay, so, and this is a 10% increase over last year as well. So we saw in COVID a drastic increase of cyber threats like ransomware, data breaches and attacks across the whole supply chain. But even still, in these past years, we're seeing a steady and somewhat drastic increase of both cost and number of incidents throughout the world. Of course, this is the highest total ever, as cybersecurity and cyber incidents are becoming the face of all news outlets, both from just small attacks here and there to global supply chain issues from nation states. But only about 50% of organizations are planning on increasing their security and following up with the times. One such example of this would be trending towards AI-based security services. I know when people hear AI, they just jump on the bandwagon and think it's just maybe some sort of scheme, But as we see more and more growth of AI through NVIDIA, through Tesla, through how Facebook has some AI mega supercomputer for moderation, it's just keeping up with the times. And like old legacy systems that fall ill to a lot of these attacks, those companies that don't follow through with keeping up to date with their security posture and hardening and patching that security wall are going to have the same similar issues that we see today. So I wanted to talk a bit more about compliance again. And NIST has so many controls, and so many of them are designed for the federal government that they're going to be too strict for those regular day-to-day companies, mom and dad shops, even just general public companies, because they're designed for the federal government. And we know that the federal government likes to be strict and uniform in exactly everything that they do. But this can be leveraged by us. And what I mean by that is, if you incorporate some of these controls from NIST and you follow and you try to comply with what they have written, you're kind of meeting a new baseline of security strength that you would otherwise not have, even following through other security standards. Okay? So if you end up wanting to be certified in a standard, but you had already been following NIST 853 controls, well, you might only have one or two things to change, if any. So NIST already provides you more than what you would need for general use. And just some of the things that tend to be issues with those following compliance is the GDPR, there's HIPAA, there's PCI DSS, just all these government regulations and authorities that require you to meet certain standards, and NIST can help you reach those or come close to before even trying to go towards a specific certification. So it can help narrow that gap and reduce costs and increase flexibility. And it allows you to build a development process and a product from the ground up tailored for you before having to make significant and costly changes based on a specific security standard more towards the end of the line. So again, compliance is financially and reputationally imperative. This means that you can reduce costs by starting earlier in your development life cycle instead of waiting too long and having to go back and make significant changes. It also allows you to advertise to potential customers in the future. Knowing that you're selling a safe and secure product can be a real boost to selling. It can be a real boost to reputation, to build trustworthiness. All things that help customers make the decision to want to buy and stick with your product. And again, here's another statistic from Cisco that 87% of customers care about their data and want greater control. This is no surprise. I know there's a lot of parents out there. I'm just a child in comparison, but I know that my parents had wanted me to stay away from certain websites, from certain apps. I mean, nowadays the control that influencers have and the media has over individuals is frightening. And on top of that, companies like Facebook, Google, and TikTok collect so much data from you. I don't know about you, but if I'm talking to my friends at the gym or just out and about at the bars about a certain topic, I know the next day I'm getting advertisements on my phone for that product, but I've never looked at it on my phone. I've only just talked about it via mouth to mouth. So I think people get frightened about data security and who has access to data and who's able to sell that data. And one thing that NIST 853 and other security standards, even like 62443 that John will talk about later, is that there's a large commitment to data privacy. Data privacy, access to control, how to patch and manage future updates so that you're able to store and contain information through confidential ways that people can trust. And be transparent about it. Because one thing in the news right now is TikTok's data collection, because they're ties to the Chinese government. And there's a large debate right now in the judicial system that is fighting back and forth about how is TikTok able to collect the data if their parent company is owned by the Chinese government, but Facebook and Google, who have infinitely more control and more access to people's data, but don't have to necessarily describe who they're selling it to, how much information is available, and so on, is frightening to a lot of people. So this goes back to your trustworthiness. And NIST 853, stemming from its federal government use, can provide that trustworthiness to the people that you care about. And lastly is the flexibility of NIST. I've talked about how you can tailor this to your own systems and controls for your security posture, but one thing that makes it different than a lot of security standards is its flexibility of different technologies. And what I mean by this is the controls are broad enough and be able to be tailored in a way that you can apply this to OT systems, IT systems, healthcare systems, mobile cloud computing, you name it. And there might be additional requirements that you might need if you're trying to meet PCI DSS, for example, for credit cards. In general, it can be tailored and applied to countless systems, which really makes it appealing to a lot of companies. So before I pass it back to John, I just wanted to say thank you, and I hope you gained some information about NIST 853. He'll describe 62443 and kind of compare the two, and hopefully you can make a wise decision at what's best going to be for your company.
All right, great. Thank you, Tom, for that great introduction into some of the NIST 853, some of the benefits and the background on it. Now we will be talking to something probably I'm guessing a lot of you are already familiar with, that we just want to kind of go over again and make sure that we can evaluate the pros of 62443 and the benefits that come along with it and what the objectives are. So when we talk about objectives about that 62443, is that we see that it is a global standard. So it is used industry standard, used across the globe, primarily for automation systems. It's a risk-based process that improves the reliability and integrity of the IEC systems. It provides a holistic approach through the whole product lifecycle, along with secure by design and defense in depth. It is considered one of many standards that exida ourselves are very familiar with, that we can provide certification for, which ensures that our customers can have trustworthiness, safe and secure practices, and effective and development lifecycle approaches. So when we talk about the benefits of IEC 62443, one of the benefits is the cybersecurity certification. These certifications provide structured, auditable, and repeatable approaches to evaluating the security of the product. As you can see, there's a short list of both end user and supplier benefits. Some of the end user benefits include ease to specify security needs, build security requirements, reduce time in factory acceptance and site acceptance testers, as well as a known security level out of the box. For suppliers, we look at some of the benefits, and this includes built-in security, product differentiator, and enhances their credibility as suppliers when they get certified through 62443. One of the other benefits is the organization of 62443. What we see with this standard compared to other standards, including NIST 853, is that it covers multiple documents and is broken down individually to see which ones are applicable to you as your organization. If you're a system integrator, you're looking at the 3- series. If you're looking for components, those are the 4- series. And each individual one you can pick and choose from to see which one is applicable to you and your organization and which ones you need to get certified through. So now that we've seen a little bit of the information regarding the NIST 853 standard as well as the IEC 62443, we can look at their comparisons in terms of their scope. So when we look at NIST 853, we see that it covers a broader scope, whereas 62443 offers a narrower scope. It's more individualized and personalized. So what we mean by that, an example is the 3-2 discusses risk assessments. In these risk assessments, your ultimate goal is to discover a security level. So now that you've got that security level, you can then look at 62443 3-3, which discusses the system requirements. And in that standard basically tells you that, okay, you've got your security level. Now, what are the requirements for that security level? So you can see that it can narrow it down further and further, and you can get more information and more coverage from that. With NIST, it covers a vast variety of federal information systems. Primarily, these federal systems are systems that will be holding confidential data. So some examples are health databases and defense communications, things of that nature. Any component of an information system that stores, processes, or transmits federal information. So again, we're looking at, your personal identity identification, your PIIs, things like that. And whereas 62443 is individual standards, NIST 853 is just one standard that is a structured list of control families and enhancements that are part of that list. When we look at NIST 853 versus 6243 with its application, we see that 853 significance is confined to the USA, so it's globally as well. This is to ensure that we cover our digital threats everywhere. NIST 853, they're not, cybersecurity warnings aren't just in the United States, they're everywhere. So this standard can help you wherever you are in the world, whatever you need. It can be seamlessly integrated into your current systems. So you can look at the controls to adhere to what you need, and you can find and fill in the gaps where your system meets or does not meet these requirements. Again, it's typical. It is mandatory and typical for most government regulatory and organizations and contractors, where they're, again, handling your personal information, they're handling confidential data, things like that. Anything that stores your data or important data. Anyone seeking to improve their cybersecurity posture, that part is for non-federal agencies or organizations. So if you are not mandated or required by NIST 853, you can still use it to see where you fit and see how you would adapt to the standard. So anyone seeking to improve their posture can look at this standard and say, yes, I meet this. No, I don't meet that. Okay, how can I meet that? And we just see it as a value stake that it's a best practice. So your compliance, again, is not mandatory, but the foundation for other compliance and regulatory requirements is there if you need it. When we look at 62443, it is globally recognized, but it's very niche. It's not as widely used or necessary as much as you would find NIST 853. So it's primarily for owners and operators of industrial automated control systems, or anybody that helps design, develop, or maintain these systems. System integrators specializing in IECS security solutions, critical infrastructure sectors to some degree, and achieve a specific cybersecurity level. So your ultimate goal with 62443 is to meet a security level that is acceptable and tolerable to your organization's standards. So to summarize, what we're suggesting, or rather showing you, is that the adoption of rigorous security standards is non-negotiable. You need to have some sort of security standard that your organization adheres to. So 62443 and 853, they're both considered comprehensive and adaptable to meet distinct needs, whether it be more if you are an organization dealing with data confidentiality and things like that. Both are important, but maybe you might lean more towards the NIST 853 standard. Organizations must select what they need based on their industry, their location, and what their challenges are as a company to provide cybersecurity best practices to keep them safe. The objective will always be the same regardless on which standard you pick, that at the end of the day, we have to defend and protect our systems, our confidentiality, availability of data, all that stuff. You think of the CIA triad, confidentiality, availability, integrity, things like that. But yes, the ultimate objective is we have to pick something, right? We have to find something that works for us and what we think is the best way to protect us. So again, just to kind of recap where we were at, the summary was Tom did an excellent job of explaining what NIST 853 is, what it provides, its objectives, and its benefits. We briefly went over some background on 62443, covering kind of the same thing, the objectives and its benefits, as well as, how the standard works. And then, we went back through and compared both of them, seeing them side by side, comparing their scope, structure, and application. So some of the other things that exida is a part of that we provide certification for is that we have a vast knowledge and a vast amount of expertise of people that can help with other standards as well, not just 62443 and diving into NIST as well, which we currently are. There's also 61508. You got your machine safety certification, all that stuff that we can help you with, along with 62443. So some of our upcoming classes that we are currently going to be teaching are some of our CS classes, our cybersecurity classes, which will be applicable to what we are currently discussing, especially with 62443. So here are some of the classes that we offer here at exida with our self-paced training that you can do online. Here are some other ones. Now this is more for primarily functional safety, which is not as applicable to what we are discussing today, but again, it is something that we at exida offer. There's multiple functional safety classes and exams that we offer, especially self-paced with the online training. We can see machinery safety, things like that. If you'd like to know more on what we offer, what we talked about today, you can feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or our online website at exida.com. And then you can personally reach out to Tom or myself at our exida emails, along with the exida website, as well as the reference material and white papers that we offer on that website along with it, including some of these webinars. We thank you for your time and attending today's webinar. We hope that our introduction to what NIST 853 helps you along with your decision and how you can progress from there, as well as comparing it briefly to 62443 and some of the options and availability of things that we can provide you here at exida. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.